as the year goes on, I get closer and closer.
So to learn new skills and to build new acumen.
We can always touch. It's not.
When you get that, then you get a lot more excited about being around children.
Normal, in a sense, with all of the changes.
Or how you can transform your own business.
On developing the whole child, socially, emotionally.
The traditional route of teaching young boys
how to set boundaries, because this little victim here needs to know how to.
Doing very well, so they use that term.
Sometimes expanded them to go up to 40 minutes.
All of those things in education, of course, those things are important.
Student is going to our heads and our lungs.
The affirmations in the mirror for about 2 minutes.
What did you do in order to get yourself going?
This is amazing.
It happens, what seems to happen quite a bit in our school.
For the families to come, and they
not really for the child, or is it for us, for the parent?
And doing new things for our brain.
Who's orchestrating everything in this universe?
Which parts of the brain are used?
Based on that map that we have.
See you with your smiling face.
Atul, thank you very much for allowing me to join you. Namaste to you, my friends.
Hello, welcome, good morning, good evening to all of you who have joined us from different parts of the world to our Early Childhood Global Spotlight talk show. I am Atul Tyagi, once again from India. I'm also a co-founder of a preschool chain in the name of Wow Kids, having more than 190 centers spread across 20 states of our country. Friends, if you're just new here, we do these Spotlight live shows usually every Sunday, 9 p.m. my time, which is Indian Standard Time, which is 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. The point of these shows is to simply inspire all early childhood educators, parents, and all who have interest in small children. And if you have any questions during the show, feel free to leave a comment. We would be happy to take them up during the show. All right, folks, today we have a very special guest, my friend, Mr. Ron Shawali. Ron has been associated with our global community since its inception. Back when this pandemic started and we went out to make this global community, I think Ron was one of the very early childhood educators to join this group. We are also joined by our very own Marian Herman, and both have joined us from Florida, United States. Now, before we get started, let me give a small introduction about Ron. Ron Shawali has been called the Messiah of the mind. His laughter-filled keynote workshops and assemblies are full of eye-opening experiences as audience have multiple aha moments. Ron holds a Master's of Education, is a best-selling author, motivational speaker, and most importantly, he's very, very funny. And children enjoy his conferences and whatever workshops he does. His background of martial arts, yoga, Reiki, professional wrestling, and improve creates hilarious and educational experiences focusing on mindfulness and connecting with fellow humans and their inner child. I welcome Ron on this show.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be back. I love watching all the other awesome people that you've had on every Sunday morning. It's tremendous. I'm honored. Thank you again.
Thank you. We also have our very own Marian Herman, who is the moderator of our global community. She's also the founder of internationally respected Music with Mar program. And I would request Marian to take this forward. Over to you, Marian.
Thank you, and thank you, Ron, for agreeing to come back on again. We've been trying to hit different topics from all different directions, and we've had Dr. Peter Alsop on talking about stopping the bullying by learning what makes the bully a bully. And, last week we were talking about, children and self-esteem, which led me to come around saying, we should get Ron back on to talk about how to give children the tools or the armor to be able to protect themselves when they are being bullied, because we can work on helping figure out what makes a bully and help on that end, but we shouldn't drop the ball and forget to help to teach children the right ways to protect themselves. So I've read your book. There are, parts that get very emotional, and your personal story as a child who was bullied has brought you to be passionate about helping children to learn to have the armor to protect themselves without being a bully back. So please talk about that for us.
Well, in my past, I was a child who was classified as ADHD, ODD, DOGG, whatever it was, high energy, was in talented and gifted classes, was bored in school, and I would get into fights. I would talk back to teachers. I would be the typical child that, had issues, whatever they called it. So my parents put me into a military academy or a naval academy. Now, my family's Israeli, so our whole family was in the Army and the Navy, and my uncle is one of the top people in the Navy. So when they put me into this naval academy, I actually went in there thinking, oh, cool, I'm going to play G.I. Joe. It's going to be fun. I think I was 12 years old at the time, but they never watched any American movies. They never saw the difference between the American military, which back in the day was all about diminishing and bringing people down and destroying you internally and building you up as a platoon. They thought it was going to be like something different. So just fast forward to, and also my parents told me if you get into a fight, then I'm going to call, my mom said, I'm going to call your uncle, her brother, and he's going to send a couple of his guys over. Now, mind you, this is about in 88, something like that, when the world was different. He's going to send a couple of guys over. They're going to throw a bag over you, and they're going to take you into the airplane, and you're going to take it to Israel, and you're not coming back until you're done with the Army. So we're talking 10 years if you get into a fight. So the whole time I was getting picked on, I was getting bullied, I was getting spit on. The whole time my hands would be down because I chose not to defend myself, because the consequence of me defending myself is so much worse, to the point where I was actually blamed after 3 weeks of being there. I was blamed for something that I didn't do. And I was told I was going to get something called the blanket party, which I didn't even know what that was. You're a 12, 11-year-old kid. I never saw Full Metal Jacket, which has anybody ever seen. It's a classic American movie about a guy named Gomer Pyle who ends up shooting his officer and himself, and they actually nicknamed me after the third day, but I'm 12. I don't know what that is. So anyway, I was told I was going to have a blanket party, which is basically they take bars of soap and combination locks, they put it in socks, and then they pull you down with a blanket and they pummel you. I didn't know what to do. I walked into my officers' room, who were like only 17, 18-year-old kids, because back then on the weekends, there was no adult supervision, and they said nothing would happen. I started freaking out. A week before that, my parents came to just check in on me. I told my mom what was happening, and she called me a liar. Why? Well, because I was lying my whole entire life in school, so why would she believe me, crying wolf? And basically, I walked back into my room, looked at my roommate who was there with his friend who would beat me up, saw a bottle of brass cleaner, which was this Brasso stuff that you're supposed to clean like your belt buckles and your whatever. And I looked at that and I said, oh, I have to get out of here. I was in full blown panic, and I grabbed it and I said, down the hatch, and I chugged it. And then my roommate turned into a human being, knocked it out of my hands, took me to the hospital. The ambulance came, they took me to the hospital. And once I realized I was safe, I looked up, I can still see myself at 12 years old. We're talking 30 years plus ago. And I said, a program in my mind, someday I'm going to have all the money in the world so I can find those two guys and make them pay. And I didn't realize at 12 years old, I programmed myself for 13 years to only focus on money and have a program in my mind that No one else is there to help me. It's all about me, and I'm super selfish. So then when I went back to school, I came back in November instead of September, which is kind of weird. And one kid said to me, like, oh, why are you back? What happened? And then all I remember was coming back to consciousness, and he was on the floor, and I had already hit him. And then for about 2-3 years, I became the school's worst bully. Anytime somebody would come in, I would go and try to beat them up to defend myself, because I'm never allowing anybody to beat me up in a mental or physical way. And that's what started everything, until I did this seminar called the Landmark Forum in 2001, which totally had me realize all the stuff that's in my head is in the past. And what I realized through life, a lot of people have horrible things that happen in life to them, and they think that it happens to them, and it did. But then you have a victim mentality. And what I've learned through my journeys is things can happen to you and they can happen for you. So why this happened for me is because I can have conversations with kids that are at that point about to take themselves out, because they don't know any other options, and I can emotionally get on their level, and I can understand their pain and what happened, which is a lot of the reasons why I do what I do, because I don't want kids to deal with the situations that I had.
That's very intense and a good background. You've said that before, huh? To understand the background sometimes behind a person. If somebody gets up and they're talking about something, and you're thinking, oh yeah, they read a book or they watched it happen to other children. So they're just talking, like, this is what I heard, but you are really talking gut. This happened to me, and I understand, and now I understand it from both points of view. And interesting, I have that quote on my refrigerator: "Things don't happen to you; they happen for you." And I was, I was on yesterday looking at that and reminding myself of it when I was going, I don't know why I have to stay in the house all the time. Why is this happening to me? And I looked at the refrigerator and went, it's happening for me. And why, and then you always feel better when you think that way. But from a child's perspective, like, you think, oh, the world is cruel. And, we as adults, the world is cruel. We look at what's happening in Afghanistan. We look at the pandemic. But for a child, cruel can be, I have to go to bed and I wanted to watch something on TV. Right. And to a child's perspective, that's cruel. They don't understand, nor should they have to understand what's going on in the world, because they can't do anything about it. But when you look at their perspective, what do they see as cruel? And how can you help them to deal with those feelings?
Well, to ask me to know what a child is thinking is interesting, because that's kind of like what we do as humans. We kind of pretend that we know what other people are thinking and respond through that. And then we don't even allow our own expression. Like, there's a guy, J.P. Sears, who has a TED Talk about being weird, where he talks about we as humans have been trained to pretend to be the person who we think other people want us to be, instead of being our authentic self. I'll say it one more time. We're trained to pretend to be who we think other people want us to be, without ever checking and asking. So a child living in a cruel world, I mean, who knows? These kids are growing up. I mean, think about from their perspective, these kids are growing up being taught there's something in the air that could kill them. And that's why you have to wear a mask. That's what I think. That's what I see. Whether science shows, the statistics about kids versus adults or whatever, but that's the world that I see. That's the first thing that pops into my head, is that, there's something in the air that can kill us. And it's just like, wow, instead of actually people explaining. And also, when most of humanity is run by fear, then they're going to implement that fear into the kids. And that's a challenge, instead of just having kids go, no, like, go outside. You can be in nature. You can breathe. You can touch grass. You can run and kick dirt. You can do this and do that. It's not things in the air. Maybe a little more clarification. It's other people and the stuff that they breathe on you can kill you, not just air in general. Yeah.
And so when children have these kinds of anxieties, and sometimes parents will say, Ron, do you have a program where my child can go to learn how to direct some of this energy, this fear, these anxieties. You have programs that you designed. Can you explain them? Is it like Yogarati? What, like some people like reading that, like you can't take for granted that everybody knows. I look at it and I know, but not everybody watching knows what that means behind you. Yogarati.
It's everything that my world. When I first started in early childhood back in 2005, I started as a preschool karate teacher after being trained by an educator who was a preschool karate teacher that opened up a regular preschool teacher who opened up their own dojo. So it's being in this whole entire world. It's interesting how it's hard to have kids be told not to make up stories because the adults in their lives make up stories. Karate and yoga, the commonality is breath, is breathing. Last week you had I forgot what her name was. She talked about mindfulness and breathing as well. Breath is everything. We have been taught that being uncomfortable is bad. We've been taught that being scared is bad. We've been taught that being depressed is bad. But that's the thing too, is like, we're taught over and over, there's only certain ways you're allowed to feel. I think that's the first concern right there. Like, I don't know how it is for you, but I mean, for me, I'm a guy. I was taught when growing up, you're allowed to be angry, but you're not allowed to be sad. You can't cry in front of other people, or you're blank, 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 blank. Okay. And then my sister was taught you're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be this and that, but you're not allowed to be angry because now you're hysterical, and older men don't like that because it's intimidating, so they try to diminish that whole thing. What I've learned through my travels is, it's just okay any way that you feel. If a child feels scared, it's okay, and what you do is you breathe through it. If a child is upset and you do a sun salutation. So, for example, the sun salutation that we do in Yogarati is a combination of movements and a yoga flow, and then we take a big belly breath in between every two movements. Then the higher levels in Yogarati, we actually use emotions. So if you're feeling sad, it's not that you're not supposed to feel sad, it's that it's okay for you to feel sad and breathe through it. So I'll do a sun salutation. So the regular sun salutation goes like, I shape a circle, then one more. I fold in half and touch the floor. I lift my head like a horse and neigh. Neigh! And that's a regular one. But if I do it with, today we're doing sadness. So everybody gets sad. I raise my head like a horse and this. I make a circle right away. And we do the breathing. If we're angry, if we're upset, if we're frustrated, we pick one. I let the kids pick an emotion. And when the movie, what was that movie that came out about the emotions? It came out Inside Out. That came out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was so great. It helped me explain emotions a lot. So now kids are learning to breathe. So I tell them, no matter what's going on, if you're scared, it's okay. If you're sad, it's okay. Breathe through it. And then I teach them different ways to breathe depending on the situation.
Right. So Yogarati's not something that comes in different flavors, and it's not yogurt. It's not.
No, there's no yogurt. There's no rating system. There's nothing. It's yoga. It's karate, and it's breathing, and it's understanding.
Combination.
What's that?
The word is a combination.
Yeah, the word is a combination of yoga and karate. Exactly.
Right. And in that program, you teach them to use the word "and" to deflect. Yes. And we just posted a video. Your video up on the group page this week of you using it with the little girl. She was a little bit older than what our group is, but you were using it with her. And if you haven't watched it, then when this is over, go back and take a look because you can see it in action. But let's have Ron talk about that.
Absolutely. And so that girl this was an assembly program in K through 5. This girl, I think, was about in 4th grade. And then I also have a video of me doing it with the 1st grader. And I've done this in my preschool classes. So I talk about how Wonder Woman and Captain America have a shield. Everybody has a shield. And the shield's purpose is to deflect. So somebody throws something at you, like a physical thing, and you deflect it with a physical block. So an "and" shield shield, and with the question mark, is a mental block for a mental attack, because some people in life might try to be a herder. I don't use the words bully in my assembly programs. I use herder, H-U-R-T-E-R, and herdee, H-U-R-T-E-E. Someone's trying to hurt and someone's being hurt. So the herder is going to try to mentally attack you by saying mean words to you. So you have a choice. If you respond and react, and by the way, adults, this works well in your life as well, because how many of you have people in your life that just try to say words to you to get under your skin, and then all of a sudden you say they're pushing your buttons, even though we're the ones that create our buttons to be pushed. So if you have a child with an and shield, what I do is I have them practice. I'm like, look, I'm going to make fun of you and I'm going to find some stuff. All I want you to do is say the word and to me with the question mark, not with any emotion, but and. So Mare, for example, so I'm chubby, I got thin hair. So Mare, let's do an example. Make fun of me in 3 different ways. Go for it.
Oh, that's easy.
Well, you're from Jersey, that's why. Okay, go for it.
Yeah. Your eyes are weird.
And?
Your hair's standing up.
And?
I don't like that color shirt.
And?
Yeah, you took my power away.
Yeah, it's so simple, literally. And I have people that just get annoyed. I had a friend that used to be in my life. I got rid of him because he's very negative, but I talk about him in my trainings. I call him Victor Timothy, or Vic Tim for short. And he literally would say things just to get under my skin. And eventually I would just be like, and he's like, what's with this stupid and? And he would get up and walk away. But that's the thing. I mean, I teach kids the same thing to do it. And in addition, if it's elementary school, I teach them also the power look, which is part of my behavior mastery program, which is where you're looking at the top of the forehead so your face goes blank. So that's when you notice all of a sudden, I'm not looking at you and going and I disconnect from you. I'm looking over the top of the computer screen, and now my face is blank and there's no micro expression. So if you go and you do that 3 or 4 times, the person's going to walk away because they're not getting what they want, which is a physical response from you and an emotional response. And if you just realize that person is just hurting inside, that person is sad, that person doesn't know how to engage other people, so they're really just a crier inside. If you get that they're probably someone that's getting bullied by somebody else and they don't know how to react or respond, so they go and they try to hurt your feelings, if you actually can get past the and when they walk away, you actually can sense and get what's going on in them. If you have compassion, maybe even afterwards, you can go up to that person, have a conversation like, listen, but look, I know that you tried to get me upset the whole entire deal, but listen, you want to talk about it? I mean, they could say no, they could say yes, you never know, but at least it's an opportunity to create a win-win environment, which is what my life and my focus on, creating win-win scenarios.
Good. Now, I know, if I may, I learned a technique similar to that for use with adults, is when someone just wants to complain everything to you, what you did wrong, everything you did wrong. And then you get in this vicious cycle of, but this is why I did it, and this is why I didn't like it. But I don't think you're understanding why I did it. And I had a psychologist one time say to me, when the person is finished throwing all the reasons why they're upset at you, the best thing you do is you look at them, you go, okay, and walk away.
Cool.
But I personally feel what Ron, the strategy that he has given by actually asking and is actually going to put a full stop, and the other person might lose his power, his or her power. It's something you need to really train your children so that they can face it, rather sit and cry or maybe feel angry. They should face it, and they should look into the eyes of the person and try to ask. And then yes, he very rightly said that at that point when you say so many ands and finally the other party loses the power, then that is a point then you can actually go and ask that what is the issue, why are you doing this to me,
Open up.
what is wrong. Yes, open up. Absolutely.
Yeah, who knows what's going on at home? Who knows what situation they just came from that they got upset or somebody pushed their buttons or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden they're just looking for that one thing. And that's the interesting part. It's challenging because as a society, as a planet, we've been trained to give other people our power because we've been trained to believe that other people can make us feel a certain way. Like if you got a Tammy Tattletale and she's going like, Joey made me call me a poopy head, and the teacher goes, Tammy, tell Joey how he made you feel. Then Tammy goes, well, you made me feel this and that. And then 20 minutes later, Tammy goes to the teacher again, and she goes, Jennifer says I'm not invited to my own birthday party. And the teacher goes, Tammy, tell Jennifer how she made you feel. And then Jennifer, Tammy, all the kids around, they're being programmed the same way the teacher's been programmed. And the programming, which is the most intense, insane programming that's so far down the subconscious, is that we've all been programmed. Other people can make us feel a certain way. So when the teacher goes, tell him how she made you feel, Tammy goes, wow, you have superpowers. You can make me feel this way. I guess I can do that. And in reality, no one can make you feel anything. You watch television. He made me mad. She made me jealous. He made me upset. But it never happened. It just happens in your brain. It never happened in reality. In reality, if we actually educate kids, this is the process that happens. Someone says words to you. You hear the words, you process the words, you evaluate the words, you give the words meaning. And then once you do that, you react in a microsecond, because that's how amazing the supercomputer is. And because you react in a microsecond and now all of a sudden you're upset, you're not taught to go, wow, what did I just do? Why did I just get myself upset? What expectation did I just create for this person? We're not taught any of that stuff to alleviate ourselves of our upset. We're taught, you made me mad. You made me upset. It's your fault. It's your responsibility. And until you say the sounds, I'm sorry together, when you say those words, then all of a sudden it's alleviated. And people hand over their power 5, 10, 15 years till somebody says those sounds back. We're just programmed into this whole system. If people just no one can make you mad, no one can make you upset unless you ask them to, our whole planet would be different.
Yes. That's why, Peter Alsop talks about that there's no such thing as negative and positive feelings. And I think you hit on that before. There are comfortable and uncomfortable. And feelings, they're meant to help you affect change or to enjoy the moment. Now, what age do you start this with? And I know the answer. Why do you think it's effective if you start so young?
Well, I start as young as there's language. I mean, when I teach my yogarati classes, I do the 2.5 to 3 years and 5 months or one class, and then the 3.5 to 5 or another class, unless I can put everybody together, because I love the Montessori style, and I would rather have my 2.5-year-olds and my 5-year-olds together. But I started as young as they can understand language, because I want to get that programming. I want to get that conditioning out of their head as soon as possible. When a child comes up to you and goes, he made me mad, I say to them, well, how did he do it? Did he use his superpowers? How did he make you mad? And the kid's like, I don't know. It's like, well, did he make you mad or did you make you mad? And the kid goes like this, like, I've had 3-year-olds go, I made me mad. I'm like, yeah. And they go, oh, I'm like, yeah, so you can make yourself happy too. And they go, oh, and then they just take it on like that. If I tried that with an adult, they would be so focused on being right and me being wrong that they wouldn't even consider they did this to themselves so they can have happiness and joy, which is why I get to the kids as young as possible. Some people, they've been programmed, conditioned for 20, 30, 50, 60 years. Them, you got to figure out your own stuff. There's plenty of ways to do it, but I need to get to the teachers and the parents before they already start brainwashing the kids into the he made you sad, she made you jealous, this and that. I need to get to them so they go, I make me mad, and that's it. And then you have your power back.
Well, Jennifer last week talked about how what the Dalai Lama said about if all children were taught to meditate, that we would have no violence within one generation. And we know, and you as you have your master's in in early childhood, we know that is before the age of 7. And you do incorporate the meditating and mindful thinking. How do you do that with the little guys?
With the little guys, I do a lot of vibrating. I do because we're atomic beings and we're vibrating. So we do a lot of we'll do like an for like, let's try this. Ready? Try an sound for 10 seconds, and after you're done, check in with yourself. And I know you do this because you vibrate with your singing anyway, but if you breathe in and just go and now feel. And I feel myself like whoa, 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 whoa. So I tell the kids to do the breathe in and breathe out, and then I tell them, think about happy things that you want. I've heard teachers go and tell kids, sit over there and think about what you did, which is basically them creating videos of the same behavior that the teacher doesn't want them doing. So I have them sit and just think about happy things. Just sit and think about being happy. Think about toys. Think about a place that you want to travel to. Think about this, think about that. And that's it. I want them getting comfortable just with their eyes closed and just thinking. Because if you do that, like there's a Dr. Joe Dispenza that has done scientific research that he had people meditate for 60 days, 5 days a week out of 7 for an hour. And the people that meditated for the 60 days, their telomeres. And if everybody doesn't know what a telomere is, we have, we got these, this is like our chromosome part, and the reason, and the telomeres are at the end. This is all science-based. The telomeres are at the end. And then what happens is we age because our telomeres get shorter. And what happened was when he did the meditation, the telomeres of the people that did the meditation went longer. They actually increased their life from 7 days to 14 days. So they lengthened their lives. And actually one person after one meditation did it. So it actually turned out to be a quantum event, which is outside of time. We don't even have any idea as to the power of meditation. The whole planet last year did a meditation. I forgot what day it was. And the whole planet did a meditation for an hour. And the Schumer resonance, if you look that up, it's the vibrational level of the planet. There's a couple of different resonances. The Schumer resonance actually went up as the whole entire planet vibrated together. So what he said is 100%. If we figured out a day where everybody meditated for an hour once a week, there'd be such a massive shift on the planet that negativity would have a hard time existing.
True. Now, how do you, when you talk about mental and physical attacks, sometimes children will get attacked physically, sometimes they get attacked mentally. And what's the difference in techniques to use? Now, that being said, we know that we try to avoid getting physical with someone else.
Yeah,
So
they asked Chuck Norris. I mean, Chuck Norris, one of the greatest martial artists. A reporter asked him, "What do you do if somebody came up to you with a gun or came up to you with a weapon or a knife and said, 'I want your wallet'?" He's like, "Here's my wallet. Would you like me to cut you a check too?" Like, what can I? And this is one of the toughest guys upon every fighter. Martial arts is about having the confidence not to fight. Where if you know that if you actually defend yourself, you can hurt another person, get in trouble, that's what has you actually walk away. Mental self-defense is when someone uses their mind against you. When someone, you can use mental self-defense when you're around the narcissist and they're trying to gaslight you. You can use mental self-defense when someone is trying to upset you, whatever it is. But when it turns physical, that's when you use physical self-defense. What is physical self-defense? Well, any martial arts will do. I mean, wrestling, grappling, whatever it is. I mean, I like wrestling. I like that kids are learning a lot more jujitsu because it's not about punching and hitting. It's about locking someone up so they can't hurt you anymore. I mean, we tell kids, defend yourself. Some parents who actually want their kids to be safe tell their kids, if somebody hits you, defend yourself, stand up for yourself. But if that's all they tell them, the kid's like, what does that mean? you have to be clear with if somebody throws a punch at you, put your hands up to defend yourself. If someone throws something, put your hands up to defend yourself. I don't know what the rules are in the other countries, but unfortunately, we grew up in New Jersey, which has the worst anti-bullying laws in the world. The worst meaning designed by politicians and lawyers and not consulted with educators. And what happens is then they took zero tolerance, which is basically used to be for kids bringing weapons into school, and they made it for everything. So what they did, and this is the programming, why there's so many bully sides in America, why there's so many school shootings in America, is because it turned into schools being responsible for the kids and being safe to now schools wanting to protect themselves from being sued from an imaginary person. So now you're a child being told if somebody throws a punch at you, hits you, if you put your hands up to defend yourself, you get the same consequence. So it's a kid like me who doesn't want to get in trouble by the parents, so they allow themselves to continuously get beaten up. But if you don't tell your child, listen, what's going to happen is if someone throws a punch at you, you put your hands up to block. If they keep on doing it and nobody's doing anything, you hit them back, you do this, you do that. And then when the principal calls you in and when the principal is a robot and goes, this is not what we approve of, blah, blah, blah. But if it happened to their kids, they would act differently. Then the parent goes in and goes, listen, you didn't protect my kid, so I told my kid to protect himself, and now we're going out for pizza and ice cream, and I tell parents, on the day that your child defends themselves or stands up for somebody else, because now we're also being taught in this country not to stand up for other people. The day that your child is suspended for defending themselves, take the kid out for pizza, take them out for ice cream, write down on the calendar, this is the day that you protected yourself, and you celebrate that every year instead of a birthday. In addition to, I don't understand birthdays. I don't know why people get all riled up. I did nothing. My mom pushed me out after 32 hours. On my birthday, I called my mom and go, thank you, good looking out for not quitting. So people celebrate their birthdays when they did nothing. I think people should celebrate the day they stood up for themselves. Imagine if you reinforce standing up for yourself and others is a good behavior. What kind of human is that kid going to turn out to be, as opposed to what we're teaching kids right now? Because if you're an adult and somebody went and physically attacked you, you put your hands up, you wouldn't go to jail. The police officer would come up to you, they would talk to witnesses and say, who did this, who started, and then they would ask you, would you want to press charges? But schools aren't aligned with the way that reality is in this country. That's a good point. Yeah, that's it. So then you have kids that stay a victim. Then they don't tell their parents, they don't tell anybody, and they can't deal with it anymore like I had. And then, I decided to just try to take myself out. I mean, I was at a military school. I could have had another option.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was always told when I was growing up, if somebody hits you, hit them harder, and if you get in a fight at school and you didn't win, do not come home and tell me about it.
Now we look at that as negative, but in reality, it's like my best friend from 5th grade. We got into a fight. The next day, he goes up to me. He's like, you punch hard. I'm like, you kick hard. You want to play He-Man? Okay. And I just saw him on the second birth of his daughter. But that's how it is. We test each other in life. We also need, in my opinion, and I'm just one of 8 billion. So however, whatever. But my opinion is if you want your kids to be strong through life, you need to teach them mental self-defense, and you need to have them learn physical self-defense. When I do assembly programs in schools, it's 45 minutes of my program. When I do it outside of schools, it's actually an hour, because there's another 15-minute component that I throw in there where I tell parents, I want you to communicate with your kids. No more assumptions anymore. And I tell the kids, what do your school tell you to do when you're, when you're getting made fun of? And the school says, talk about it. And I say, what do the school tell you to do when you're getting picked on or getting hit? And the kids tell the parents, don't put your hands up. The parents lose their mind going, what do you mean? It's all a conversation. And it's also teaching kids to understand the mental part. It never has to get to the physical part. If we can just get these kids to understand that nobody can make fun of you without your consent, and nobody can make you mad, and nobody can make you sad, if these kids just learn to take on the responsibility of their emotions, all of a sudden you're going to have kids hugging. You're going to have kids helping each other. It's not going to be win-lose. It's going to be win-win.
And we hope so. So
now here I have a question. Now there are so many parents I see instead of empowering their children to act themselves and defend themselves in whatever way,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
will go to the ground and try to solve it for the children,
Yes.
and they will go again and again. So there are so many parents who will go to
Yeah.
the school, go to the playground, and fight for the child. See
And that's
you, and
yeah.
they will do it for small children. Is it good, bad? What is how do you react on that?
In my opinion, okay, so there used to be something called helicopter parents, where it's like a parent that flies around in helicopters, but now there's something called lawnmower parents, where literally what they do is they get in front of their kid and they mow down any obstacle, any challenge, any oppositional, so they have an easy life. But the crazy part is those parents had a challenging life and they turned out great. Why they think to do the opposite for their kids is insane, but it's just a programming. We need to teach these kids how to stand up for themselves. We need to teach the kids how to take breaths. We need to teach the kids that when you go in, I mean, any parent right now can think about, did you want your parents to come in and help you in school? No, of course not. It doesn't help. But the parents just think they're solving the problem and they don't realize they're creating a win-lose environment. The parent wins because they think they're right, which is one of the worst things that we do. We focus on right and wrong. And the parent thinks that they're doing something because they're taking action instead of the kids going and teaching them. What's your kid going to do? I mean, if you don't teach your kids how to operate in a human world that doesn't have nice people in it, you know where your kids are going to end up? They're going to be in your basement when they're 30 and they're 40 and they're 50 and they're never going to leave.
Very good. I think very good. That's
Well,
you really put it the way it should be, because I see that that a lot of parents do that. They actually try to protect their children. They feel very offended when some other children try to bully their child, rather than teaching the child and empowering them to do a self defense. They in turn try to mow the all the
Right.
obstacles, which I feel that the child will never be the, and those children, for every small thing, they look up to the parent. They will every time, mama, see that child said that, mama, see he's done this, mama,
Yeah.
see papa, for every minute they will keep telling. And now with the phone, these children in the playground will keep calling their mother,
Mm-hmm.
and they will see what is happening. They will show the video, see that is happening in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is, a very different
And then
they are
they'll
not.
do.
If I may, I'd like
Yes.
to just share a short story that helped me understand this. I know when my daughter was just about 3, we were with another woman and her daughter on the same age. And all day long, I was using my techniques, and this other girl was a brat. She would pull toys out of my daughter's hand. She would demand, and her mother would go, well, let her have what she wants. So the end of the day, we hear really quiet. And we're like, that can't be right. We go in the room, and all we hear is Melissa, the other girl, crying, just crying. And I said, where's Joya? And she points to a room. I go in the room, I go, what happened? Joya looks at me very confidently and says, I tried using my words. You tried using your words. They didn't work. I hit her. I put myself in timeout. And I was like,
done.
I don't know whether to reprimand her or give her a star. Because I was proud of her that she tried the other solutions. But that's when my mind went, okay, so we need to teach them that it's a last resort, a very last resort.
Absolutely.
Just like globally, like later on, she and I talked about when she was a couple years older, like with the whole world thing, like she says, Mom, President Bush keeps trying to talk to Hussein. I go, yes, honey, I know. He doesn't listen to words, then we're going to get physical. And I'm like, oh, yeah. But I mean, on a global scale, but that's what happens. We have to teach people that you have to hear the words, and you have to try the words, and you have to try the physical blocks first, because that's so very important. And the person on the other end also learns that there's a limit to how much they're going to take.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that's just human nature. And as you and I said, Ron, it's not a popular way to look at it, but no one is saying go out and be a bully. No one is saying go out and hit kids or kick kids if somebody does something wrong to you. They're saying is give them all the tools they need to avoid that.
If you and somebody, if you and them and they get upset and they get frustrated and they go and swing, then then you have an option. You have this, you have that. I mean, I wrote a song called "If You Want to Stop a Bully" about defending that 100%. When it came out, I mean, people were upset. They were this because it talks about if you want to stop a bully, do a kick. If you want to stop a bully, hammer fist on the nose. I mean, all this stuff like that. But I mean, I'm looking at it from the perspective of if you're dealing with somebody that's 3 times your size and a quick little, I mean, when I did karate and I was holding a board, I was holding a little plastic board for a 3-year-old. And for some reason I wasn't paying attention, or I heard a sound and looked over. And when I came back, this little kid broke the plastic board, but the hand went right on my nose. But it's a little hand, but it doesn't matter. You bop somebody on their nose and automatically the body starts to tear up and then they can't see well, and it's an opportunity for you to run. That's what I tell adults, the same thing. But exactly, it's like, but this is a human world now where it's I get where people are coming from. Here's the thing though. If you want things to be a certain way because your mind tells you how you think it should be, that's totally fine to live in that world. Just it's an imaginary world in your mind. Whatever your opinion is on how other people should be, because should is that word where we create expectations in our mind based on no reality and get upset at other people when they don't do what we think they should do and we don't tell them. It's just insane. But if we think people should be a certain way, we have to, we get to, and also too, we don't have to do anything. We get to, like, I joke around how people have to go to work, but you don't have to, you get to go to work. And there's other people that wish they can get to go to work. Because when we say we have to do things, like how many people watching this think they have to lose a pound of weight? So because your brain tells you have to lose a pound of weight, you're now bullying yourself instead of just getting, I'm whole and complete and perfect the way that I am. So understanding it's communicating with the kids, it's understanding ourselves. And here's probably one of the best tools that I can give people to give to their kids. We've been taught that there's a decision maker up here. And what happens is it's our brain, but our mind is what makes decisions. Like when we go to sleep, we don't know where our mind goes. I learned when I was learning Kung Fu, I had an instructor who told me, the guy was maybe a third my size. And he said, push me over. And I put my hands and I pushed him over and he fell over. And he's like, okay, hold on 1 second. He went like this. And he's like, push me over again. I tried with 1 arm, I couldn't do it. I tried with 2, I couldn't do it. Now I put all of my 300 pounds in, and this guy's 150 pounds, and I couldn't budge him. And I go, okay, what's the trick? And he's like, I put my mind in my foot. And I went, oh. And now 15 years later, 20 years later, thinking about that and learning about science, the heart, there's you know how you talk about finding armor and the way that you spelled armor? There's actually a scientist, Dr. Andrew Armour, and he's in Canada. In 1991, he discovered that the heart has its own internal nervous system. The heart has its own thoughts. The heart sends more messages to the brain than vice versa. So when people hear their brain say, oh, how dare they, that person disrespected. You ever have like a parent that like, look at me when I'm talking to you, and if the child's going like this, then the adult makes up a story the child's being disrespectful? No, the child's just looking left, right, and up and down. You're making up a story about them being disrespectful because that's your stuff from the past. But if we do it where we're understanding what's happening, you don't have to get upset at a child if your mind is in your brain and your brain goes, oh, that kid's being disrespectful. You can take a breath and then you drop into your heart. And now you make a decision from your heart. And your heart goes, oh, well, you know what? That child's just trying to push your buttons because they need attention. And then if you're if you're able to practice doing this, if you drop into your gut, your information, your instincts, your gut might say, listen, that child's just having a bad day. You know they're trying to push your buttons. Just let them go. But the thing is, most people don't realize that. Their brain says something, and then their mind is in their brain because that's where we're programmed for it to be, and then we react. But if you take a second to go, what would my heart do? What would my gut do? Then all of a sudden it's different, and life is different when you start. If you start making decisions from your heart and your gut instead of your brain, your whole life changes for a positive.
Well, we're really past our time, so let's wrap things up. Not complaining about it. Good conversation.
Okay. All right.
Explain if someone wants to implement this philosophy in their early childhood center. Like WOW Kids say, wow, we need to teach our children to use some Yogarati and some of Ron Schwally's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do they do it?
Instead of telling kids what to do, model it. 100% model it. If you're in a classroom with 2 kids, you have a teacher say something to another teacher as kind of a little bit rude, or not even rude, but, figure out a story. And then one teacher can go like this and go, you know what you said, I'm upset. Hold on 1 second. And all of a sudden the kids are now watching. And then all of a sudden the teacher, or maybe the teacher can even come back into the room and go, oh, I'm upset. And all the kids are looking at the teacher. And then the teacher goes like this. What does my heart tell me to do? Oh, my heart tells me to be happy. Okay. And then the teacher just sits down. But all the kids, just as long as everybody was pattern interrupted and paying attention, all the kids are watching going like that. Same way you model the and. You don't just tell kids, do and, do this. You have another teacher come in and do some sort of role play, and they might do something like your hair is weird. And then the other teacher goes, and it's like, your shoes are smelly. And then the kids are watching doing it. And then you'll watch the alphas in the classroom, because I talk about alpha boys and alpha girls. Those are the ones that'll start doing it first, and eventually it'll trickle down. I don't educate kids. I don't tell them what to do. I give examples. I model. I make sure that they're watching me while I do it. And then I make sure that the alphas are doing it. And then I watch that as it trickles out into the classroom. And now all the kids have the skills because they wanted it, not because the teacher told them, which is kind of like a form of like bullying too, when we're just telling kids what to do, in my mind, my opinion.
That's all?
Yes.
Any question?
I was just wondering if you had any comment you wanted to make before we wrap this up.
There is a comment, I'm not sure.
Love the deflector shield and the word and. This morning was the first time to meet that technique. Thanks, Ron. Thanks. Awesome. Yes, my pleasure. Try it with people. Go and. Somebody says something to you. It's like, what did you do this? Do that? Just and. It's so fun. I can't even tell you how much fun it is to try it on an adult and watch their little.
I can really imagine. I know. It can simply be irritating. It can actually make the other side powerless.
Or they can make themselves powerless.
Yes.
Both. Why don't we just say both and everybody's right? How about that?
All right.
Yep. Well, I thank you for a interesting, different conversation today. And people can find you at all of those wonderful places that are listed behind you.
I am not ashamed to self-market.
Excuse me?
I am not ashamed to self-market. I don't bully myself about that.
And he has a YouTube channel. A lot of the videos are posted, usually one a day, sometimes 3 or 4 during the week. So you can find them and comment. If you're unsure of whether you agree with something, that's good too, because people shouldn't shy away from having an honest, open discussion. Don't just turn off to somebody because no, that's not right. You should never, ever hit. I'm not going to ever listen to this guy again. You lose a really good opportunity. So open the discussion, just talk about it, and you might learn from each other. Always, always keep dialogue open, because that is the ultimate weapon against physical violence.
Fantastic. I think that's a very
thank you,
nice
Ron. That's all.
All right. All right, friends. So today Today we had a amazing spotlight, and I was listening to whatever strategies Ron gave in giving children the armor to thrive in a sometimes cruel world. So very, very important points that he brought, and so many strategies he has given. I don't think so there could be more that can be told in such a small conversation. I think if you can try few strategies, you can also go to his channel. There are so many videos he posts of his own conferences which are very helpful, which can actually guide you in case you and your child are struggling with such kind of bullying in your environment, wherever you you are. So I hope this discussion has been beneficial for a lot of us. My sincere thanks to Ron once again to join us and take your precious time out. Thank you, Marian, for your time to this global
Always.
community as always. I also thank all the viewers on Facebook for taking your precious time out to watch this show live. Our best wishes until we meet again next week. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.